miss, we make the recording available to you. Okay, so thank you very much. Since most of you may not be showing your face, I won't go through introduction. Just go through course description. Okay, this morning. So I also can promise that you get the slides of this presentation afterwards. Okay, so please, some ground rules. If you are not talking, please mute yourself. You can show your face if you wish. If you want to say something, you can raise your hand, and then I will give you opportunity to ask a question or make a contribution. You can also send me a chat, and then I will take up your requirements. So COBIT. Now COBIT has been around for over 20 years, and initially COBIT meant control objective for information and technology. Excuse me. Sorry. Control objective for information and related technology. That's what it meant, but it has moved beyond that. So 20 years ago, that's when you say COBIT, what does it mean? You can use it as that. And so it's an acronym for control objectives for information and related technology. But today, it has become a trademark that is used to express the framework for enterprise governance and management of information and technology. You will notice that I didn't say information technology, because it's not just about information technology, it's about information and technology. There's a need to emphasize that, because when we say IT, people think more about the T than they think of the high. So it's more of the high than the T. So we are looking at the high and the T, because the reason why the T exists is because of the high. I does not exist because of the T exists because of the high. So we're looking at information and technology that supports enterprise goal achievement. Now, from this definition, you can see that the focus of COBIT is to ensure that the goals of the enterprise is achieved. The goal of the enterprise or the goals of the enterprise are achieved. So it's all about what information and technology can do for the business. It's not what the IT does, but what the business is able to do because of what IT does. So it is about using information and technology to create value for the enterprise. So COBIT is a framework that helps you to be able to achieve that, because at the end of the day, value creation is the objective of stakeholders. So this foundation course, which is the part 1 of this masterclass that we have, is intended for current COBIT 5 Foundation certificate holders, as well as those new to COBIT who are interested in achieving the latest foundation certificate. Okay, so we have some of you are here, and I'm sure I'm aware of two or three people who have contacted me. I'm sure at least 3 people here. I know Mr. Michael is here, who already had COBIT 5 certificate. Mr. Ganiu is here, who already had COBIT 5 certificate. Alex is here, who also already got his COBIT 5 certificate. So the question is, why do I need to do this? It's for both who have done COBIT 5, because this is an iteration, it is an incremental improvement to COBIT 5, but it's a major improvement. It will refresh your understanding of COBIT. The principles are still standing, and then as well help you to navigate the changes. So it's for those who have the foundation certificate and those who are interested in achieving the latest foundation certificate. So if you have COBIT 5 foundation certificate, there are 2 exams that are possible for you to write. You may choose to write the COBIT Bridge exam, the 2019 Bridge exam, which is a 20-question exam, but you have to pass 16 out of the 20 for you to be awarded the certificate for COBIT 2019, or you write the COBIT 2019 foundation exams entirely. Okay, the chances of failure for 2019 foundation is less than when you write the bridge. Okay, so but that's not to discourage you from writing the bridge. The cost of the exams are the same. Just that you need to be very sure that you will not miss more than 4 questions for you to pass. So I wrote the bridge exam, I got 100%. So that means you can do it. But you need to be confident that you won't miss more than 4 questions if you want to do the bridge exams. So the foundation normally in a typical environment is a 2-day course which analyzes the concepts, models, and key definitions of the COBIT framework and helps prepare learners to take the foundation exam. So by the end of Tuesday, by tomorrow evening, you should be ready to write the foundation exam. And if you reach out to me, I can provide you with a voucher for the foundation exam, or you can register directly with ISACA for the exam. The difference in pricing is that we are $5 cheaper for the foundation exam than ISACA. That's just for the foundation exam. The design guide and implementation guide, the cost fee, the exam fee is the same. Okay, so let's look at the learning objectives for this course. For the foundation class, that's the part 1 of the master class, we recognize the target audience for COBIT 2019. You know, who are the people that 2019 are written for. So the book is written for some set of people. I want to look at those people. You know, who are the people that can benefit from COBIT 2019 framework. We also look at the context, the benefits, and key reasons COBIT is used as an information and technology governance framework. We recognize the descriptions and purposes of COBIT product architecture, and record the alignment of COBIT with other applicable frameworks, standards, and bodies of knowledge. Understand and describe the governance system and governance framework principles. Describe the components of the governance system. Understand the overall structure and contents of the goal cascade. So you can see that when we talk about governance, we see governance as a system. Governance system, the components of a governance system. So we look at governance system, and when you say something is a system, that means that it has components. So we look at the components of the governance system, and then we look at the structure and the contents of a mechanism, a technique in COBIT called goals cascade. Don't forget that the whole essence of governance is to ensure that information technology are used to achieve enterprise goals. So goals are different levels. You have goals at the enterprise level. You know, there are strategic goals, there are tactical goals, there are operational goals. So these goals are cascaded, you know, using a mapping table in COBIT, which was based on research and some scientific approach to determining strategic alignment of goals. So we look at that. And then COBIT consists of 40 governance and management objectives and their purpose statements. You know, sometimes we all get involved in things and forget why. You know, we get busy with activities, and then we forget why we even started those activities in the first place. So COBIT is about ensuring that we focus on our objectives. You know, what are the objectives, the governance and management objectives for the organization? And then we look at the purpose statement. So there are 40 of them. 5 of them are governance objectives, and 35 of them are management objectives. So in essence, COBIT separates or distinguishes between governance and management. And the way it has done that is through the objectives and their purpose statements. So each objective has a purpose and a description. And then that is what we drive the components of those objectives to say, okay, what are the processes, the practices, the principles, the tools, the competencies, and so on, that will be required to be able to achieve these objectives. So we also look at the relationship between governance and management objectives and their components. We look at the COBIT-based performance management using maturity and capability perspectives. Okay, I've been asked questions like, you know, what are the assessment, you know, capability assessment features in COBIT 2019? You know, because there's a difference between the approach in COBIT 2019 and COBIT 5. And some have said, okay, what about the exams for the assessors? Even the debate is ongoing at ISACA, at the highest level in ISACA. Should we have an accreditation program for assessors for COBIT 2019 or not? So that is an ongoing debate. and then it has not been concluded. So hopefully there may be some assessment or assessor program in the future for COBIT 2019 certificate holders, or we may be asked to restrict ourselves to the COBIT-based performance management using maturity and capability perspectives as described in the governance and management objectives documentation. We also look at how to design a tailored governance system using COBIT. By Wednesday, we should be looking at the design guide, which is about how to design a tailored governance system using COBIT. So when we talk about a tailored governance system, we are admitting that not all organizations are the same. Every organization is unique, and you can take this generic framework called COBIT and tailor it to the needs and the conditions of the organization. So every organization have their needs, they have their conditions, they have their goals, their strategy, their risk profiles are different, their compliance requirements are different, the way they source for information technology is different, and so on. They have their different pain points and IRT issues. So how do we design a tailored governance system? So COBIT provides you with a design toolkit, which I'm going to also share with you, a spreadsheet, which you can actually use to diagnose the condition or the situation of your organization. So we're going to go through some of those practical tips and see how to make use of it. Okay, explain the key points of the COBIT business case. We look at the business case. We said that information and technology are meant to create business value through the enterprise goals that organizations they have set for themselves. So every initiative within an organization therefore requires a business case, including COBIT. If you want to implement COBIT, if you want to adopt it or adapt it for your organization, you need to be able to create a business case around it. So a business case is making a case for the business. Most IT people use business case as a way of justifying expenditure or getting approval for an initiative. But it's basically about making a case for the business, ensuring that whatever you do impacts the business positively, that you're able to create value from whatever activity you do, because what you do is not what is important, but what the business is able to do because of what you do. So business case is about demonstrating how the business is going to get value and preserve value as a result of the upside or downside of the initiative that you are following, or that you are. Okay, we have another person coming in. She goes in Mbago. Thank you for coming. So we look at the COBIT business case, and you can use that business case to actually create any form of business case for your organization. So we see the template to be one of your assignments that you submit to me to see if you really want to get the best. So if you work with me, if you submit your assignments, I can make my comments on the assignments, which means that you are really becoming a consultant around this. So I will keep on pushing you. I'll put you under some pressure. So, but you can always tell me stop, and then I will stop. Okay. So understand and recall the phases of COBIT implementation approach. So there's also an approach in the implementation guide on how to actually implement governance in your organization. How do you design and implement a governance system within your organization? We are going to look at that as well, implementation guide. And then you prepare for the foundation exam. You have received some joint instruction. I will check what you've received, but in addition, I will share with you the syllabus so that you know exactly what will be asked in the exam. It's a very simple exam. You just need to have an open mind and participate in this class. You can pass at one sitting, and you can pass very well, if you follow through. Okay, so I will pause here to ask if there are any questions. If anybody has questions they want to ask. You can raise your hand if you have questions for me. Or you can send something in the chat. Okay. All right, no question. So let's go. Intended audience. Okay, intended audience for this for COBIT 2019. So when we say intended audience for COBIT 2019, we're also referring to intended audience for governance governance objectives for the organization, for governance system for organization. Okay, so we have we look at the intended audience as we go on. Okay, so the COBIT 5 Foundation Certificate holders and COBIT 2019 Foundation Certificate. So everybody here who are interested in looking at COBIT 2019 and learning what it is all about. And then we have, these are the modules that we're going to look at. Course introduction, I've talked about it. Framework introduction, principles, governance systems and components, governance and management objectives, performance management, tailored governance system, business case, and implementation guide. For the exam, you have 75 questions to answer from, and the pass rate is 65% of 49 correct answers. If you are doing the bridge exam, that is, you already possess COBIT 5 Foundation Certificate, and you want to now do COBIT 2019 bridge exam. You have 20 questions there, but you have to pass 75%. In other words, you have to pass at least 16 of the questions. But for foundation, it's online pro-taught exam, 75 multiple choice questions, closed book, one correct answer for each question, using 3 choices, A, B, or C, 2 hours duration, which I don't think you need up to that to finish the exam. We have 3 options. That means that you can eliminate one, and you can actually choose between A and B for the best answer. Okay, so that's how the exam is. And then I encourage everybody to plan to write it almost immediately. Okay, so let's look at the learning objective for Module 2. We'll be looking at enterprise governance of I&T. Okay, and then therefore we look at the target audience, like I mentioned, who are in the organization should be interested in COBIT. We look at the context, benefits, and key reasons COBIT is used as an information and technology governance framework. We recognize the descriptions and purposes of the COBIT product architecture. Okay, we call the alignment of COBIT with other applicable frameworks, standards, and bodies of knowledge, and then prepare for the exam. Okay, when we say prepare for the exam, we're looking at some questions. Somebody will say, okay, are there dumps? So no dumps, but we look at some sample questions, which you are likely to also see again in your exams. So let's look at enterprise governance of information technology. I'm sure you must have heard about IT governance. So it means the same thing as enterprise governance of information and technology, but this is the more appropriate way to say it. Enterprise governance of information and technology. When you say IT governance, many people begin to reduce or minimize the focus of the subject to IT. It's not about IT, it's about the enterprise, the corporate governance of information and technology. This is because information and technology is pervasive across the enterprise. It is everywhere within the enterprise. In the light of digital transformation, there's so much digital transformation going on. Some organizations, they have never used technology as much as they have in the last 2 months, because of the global pandemic, and they need to work from home and to keep on the business light on. So in the light of the digital transformation, information and technology have become crucial in the support, sustainability, and growth of enterprises. Previously, governing boards and senior management could delegate, ignore, or avoid I&T-related decisions. So there was a time that IT is just in the server room, but they can no longer afford that. IT is now in the boardroom, and that's what governance is all about. Moving IT from server room to boardroom is no longer about what IT does or what the business is able to do because of what IT does. So governing bodies and senior management who no longer afford to delegate, ignore, avoid I&T related decisions. In most sectors and industries, such attitudes are now ill-advised. Digitized enterprises are increasingly dependent on information and technology for survival and growth. Stakeholder value creation is often driven by a high degree of digitization in new business models, efficient processes, successful innovation. So when we talk about transformation going on, those who are able to reinvent themselves through new business models, through new operating models, are the innovative ones, and they are the ones that are able to survive the times. So when we talk about COBIT 2019, we don't use the term IT often. We talk about I and T, because IT is a reference to an organizational department or a function within the organization, within the enterprise. So COBIT 2019 focuses on the governance of information and technology. Governance of information and technology. And the framework recognizes that information and technology may reside outside the traditional IT department. So if you look at your office or your organization, you realize that sometimes there's a lot of IT going on outside IT department. Some departments may even have their own software solutions, they may have their own software solutions, they may have their own service provider outside what IT does. They may have their own ISP, for example, as an alternative to what IT is able to provide. So there is a recognition of that fact that there is what they call shadow IT. The framework encompasses all information and technology. The enterprise generates, processes, and uses to achieve its goals, as well as the technology to support that throughout the enterprise. So it encompasses all the information and technology the enterprise generates. So it's not just about what is happening in IT, but what is happening elsewhere, that information is generated or used or disposed or shared or secured or created, and so on and so forth. So information is everywhere in the organization. And so COBIT covers the enterprise end to end. So given the centrality of I and T for enterprise risk management and value generation, a specific focus on enterprise governance of information and technology has arisen over the last 2 decades. So in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of focus on information and technology, especially since the advent of the third industrial revolution. Now that we are moving to the fourth industrial revolution, this has become more imperative. So EGIT, or which we also call IT governance, so we'll be using the term EGIT here, enterprise governance of IT, so that we can put the emphasis back on corporate governance and not just on IT. The emphasis on corporate is on corporate governance of IT, not just on IT. So EGIT is an integral part of corporate governance. So it is not something that happens outside corporate governance. I've seen IT professionals and IT leaders struggle around it. They want to have an effective IT governance, but within the context of a poor corporate governance, and that becomes a challenge. So IT governance will be effective in the context of an effective corporate governance system, because it is meant to integrate into the corporate governance. It's not something that happens outside corporate governance. It is something that happens within the corporate governance of the organization. So we are saying that enterprise governance of IT is as much the responsibility of the board as other corporate governance functions they may have. It is exercised by the board that oversees the definition and implementation of processes, structures, and relational mechanisms within the organization. It enables both business and IT people to execute their responsibilities in support of business and IT alignment. So it is important that business and IT align. In fact, more than alignment, we are looking at convergence. Okay, more than alignment, we are looking at convergence because today it is not smart to separate business from technology anymore. You cannot separate business from IT anymore. They work together. Look at what has happened. Somebody asked the question, who facilitated your digital transformation in the organization? Option 1, your CIO. Option 2, your board. Option 3, COVID-19. And the answer is what? I believe you agree with me that it's COVID-19. That is the answer. COVID-19 has accelerated, the adoption of technology in most organizations. Those who did not believe that teleworking is possible, now they are embracing it. And then organizations are embracing bring your own device, they're embracing work from home and all of that. So this would also increase the need for increasing alignment between business and IT, even as we go into the post-COVID world. So enterprise governance of information and technology also enables creation of business value from I&T enabled business investments. So there's been a lot of investments now into I&T, a lot of investments around information and technology. Organizations are making a lot of investments. And the question is that those investments, will they bring returns? Because it's not just about IT is no longer an expense for the organization. IIT is a business investment, okay? And then it must be managed as other business investments. In other words, it must bring returns. Okay, so what is the difference between expense and investment? The difference is in the returns. Investment will bring back returns. Expense may be a sunk cost, like accountants will say. So we are looking at this from that perspective. Enterprise governance of information and technology is about ensuring business alignment, and we are ensuring business alignment so that we can create value for the organization. Anything that adds cost without adding value is a waste. So you don't want your IT investment to be a waste, you want it to create value. So good governance will lead to alignment. Alignment means that IT is helping the business to go to where it needs to go, helping IT to achieve its business objective, value for the business, and that is how value is realized for the stakeholders. So capital price governance of IT leads to alignment, and alignment leads to value creation. So we are sure that business and IT are not working at cross purposes to each other. So benefits of information and technology governance. So no, I'm not saying IT governance again. I'm saying information and technology governance, I&T governance. So EGIT is concerned with value delivery. At the end of the day, it's all about value. Value. So in your preparation for exams, if there's a question there that you are not sure of, any question that points you to value creation for the organization is the right answer. So it's all about the value delivery, from the digital transformation of the efforts of the organization and the mitigation of business risk that results from digital transformation. So there are two sides to it. You have the value drivers and the risk drivers. Risk management is all about preservation of value. Benefit realization is about creating value. Risk optimization is about preserving value. So you want to ensure that as you are pursuing the opportunities that comes from digital transformation, you are also not neglecting to the risk exposures that come as a result of that. So basically, there are three main outcomes. There are three objectives when we talk about value creation. For us, value and benefits don't mean the same thing. Something may be beneficial without creating value. Okay. I think I will mute all of you now, and then I see if anybody wants to challenge that statement. Can something be beneficial without adding value? Anybody in the house? Anyone who wants to share with me your thoughts about this? Do I have anybody in the house? Dotun, are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so I want you to say something. What's the difference between something giving you value and benefits? What's the difference between value and benefits? Can something be beneficial without adding value? Or not?
Well, I can't think of any for now.
Okay, so the assumption was, okay, somebody wants to say something. Okay,
Yeah,
somebody said no.
Okay. Yeah, I think benefit is short term while value is long term.
Okay, that's
Good
your
morning.
perspective.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think benefit is an advantage. Why value is something you render a quality something.
Okay, so if I buy a fast car in Lagos, I don't know, I assume most of us here, you've been to Lagos. So I know how Lagos is on a typical day. So if I buy a car that can move from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds, right? I'll get some benefits, right? But will I be able to ever do that in Lagos?
No, I don't get you.
Can I actually drive for 100 kilometers per hour consistently anywhere in Lagos at that speed?
No.
Okay. So if the value of the car is that ability to make me drive that fast, okay, I can get some benefits. I say, yes, I have the best car in the country and all of that. It's a fast car. But at what cost have I acquired it? And am I able to get value? So this concept of cost-benefit analysis. If, for example, let me use another simple example. I bought a bicycle for my child, and the bicycle cost me $100. Now, I live in an environment where maybe bicycles are very attractive targets for thieves. And I now buy a 1,000 lock to protect my $100 bicycle. Will I get benefits from that lock? The lock costs $1,000. The bicycle I'm trying to protect costs $100. Will I get benefits from the lock?
Yes.
No.
Yes, because to protect my bicycle. But am I getting value from that decision?
No.
Exactly. So you can get benefits without necessarily getting value. And that's why when we talk about information and technology governance, we don't just talk about benefits. No, organizations will say, oh, if you buy this software, you are going to get this. But okay, at what cost, at what risk? So value, therefore, is a balance between benefits, risk, and resource. We are looking at 3 things. There are 3 objectives before you can say really you have been able to achieve your value objective. Benefit realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization. So it's a balance between the 3 main outcomes. So when you talk about governance, we are trying to look at these 3 perspectives and say, okay, are we getting the benefits? Are we optimizing the risk? Are we optimizing the resources? So when we talk about resources, that includes human resources, money, capital, everything that we need, to produce effectively in the organization. Risk optimization, we are looking not just at, we're not talking about risk management only. We are looking at the upside and the downside of risk. So when we talk about risk optimization, we are also interested in whether what will happen if you don't take that risk. What are the opportunities that we are going to lose if you don't take the risk that we are trying to avoid? And what are the opportunities we are going to gain if you take that risk? Because when you don't take risk, there are also some opportunities that you lose. I know somebody here who woke up because of his time zone. He woke up in the middle of the night to attend here. So there's a risk, there's a trade-off. He's losing his sleep, and then he's here to attend a class. But he has weighed it, and he feels that, okay, I would rather take the risk of missing some hours of sleep and be part of this class. So risk optimization is all about that. It's not just about eliminating risk, because there's nothing like risk being eliminated. You don't eliminate risk. You can modify it, you can reduce it. But if you are going to be in business, there will always be residual risk that you focus on. So that decision that you make on whether to pursue that business objective or to avoid it, depending on the risk factors that you are exposed to, is what risk optimization is all about. So you look at all of that because you can go into a business, for example, the risk is too much. You invest so much into it. At the end of the day, it's like buying land where there is no government protection, and it depends on how well you can fight, the owners of the land, how violent you are, that determines whether you get the land or not. So that's a risk. Some people are willing to take that risk, but you also have the possibility of losing all your investment, because of the risk exposure that comes from it. So benefit realization, risk optimization, resource optimization, these are the three main outcomes of a successful adoption of enterprise governance of information and technology. And this theme we keep on recalling. Value is created for stakeholders. And so when we talk about stakeholders are also decided, or analyzed from these three perspectives. Stakeholders are those who are receiving benefits or those who are delivering benefits. Stakeholders are those who are managing risk or those who are exposed to risks. Stakeholders are those who are providing resources or who are the resources themselves. Okay? So value creation is about benefit realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization. Okay, in a large case study of an international airline company, enterprise governance IT benefits were demonstrated to include the following. So if you adopt correctly and adapt correctly or effectively enterprise governance of IT framework like COBIT, these are some of the benefits you can expect to be delivered to your organization. Lower IT-related continuity costs. So cost of maintaining continuity as a result of IT-related capacity of the organization will reduce. Increased IT-enabled innovation capacity. So organizations become more innovative because of proper governance. Increased alignment between digital investment and business goals and strategy. So you ensure that your business and your investment in digital assets are not at cross purposes. I know of a big bank in Nigeria that went under because of wrong investment in digital capability. They became very weak and they were eventually acquired because of wrong IT investment. Something may be good, but may not be right. You can have a good technology that is not right technology. You can make a good investment that is not the right investment. Maybe you made it at the wrong time, or you made it when the market risks are too, the market risk exposure is not acceptable. And so it becomes something that should be good, becomes wrong. And so it's no longer the right investment. It's not fit for purpose, not fit for use, not tailored to the needs of the organization. So with enterprise governance of IT, you're able to mitigate that possibility. Also, there will be increased trust between business and IT because there will be stakeholder engagement and stakeholder transparency, and a shift toward a value mindset around digital assets as against a solution mindset. Many people or many decision makers focus more on solutions. We want to buy Oracle, we want to buy IBM, we want to buy this, as against value mindset. What exactly do we want to get out of this acquisition is what we should be focused on. So governance helps with that. There's a saying I would like to share with you. I like to share with everybody that comes to class that the difference between a garden and a bush is governance. The difference between a garden and a bush is governance. And if you look at developing countries and the countries that are not developing, the difference is not their weather, their climate, the type of forest they have. It's all about governance. It boils down to governance. So the same way with organizations, the same way with your IT, you can spend all the money that you want to spend. What determines whether you get value or not is the governance that is in place to realize benefits, to optimize risk, and to optimize resources, because this is how value is created. So without governance, benefits will not be realized optimally. There will be a lot of value leakages, and risk exposure will be too high, and that may even erode all the value that you have created, and resources will not be optimized. You won't get the best out of your resources. Because when we talk about resource optimization, we are referring to effective, efficient, and responsible use of resources. Effective, efficient, and responsible use of resources. Benefit realization is about ensuring that we retire what needs to be retired, we improve on what we need to improve on, and we also put new things in our portfolio, that we need to focus on for growth and sustainability. Okay, any question? I hope I'm not moving too fast. If I'm moving fast, you can click on go slower, and all of that. So if you are happy with what I'm doing, please just click yes, and then I will know that we are together. Okay, I will appreciate that feedback. Okay, so any question at this stage? Any question? You can raise your hand. If you have a question, I will unmute you. So I have a question here from the chat room. Oh, sorry, Chinedu, I missed your question. Which question do you want me to repeat? Okay, is there a difference between digitization and digitalization? Yes, there's a difference between digitization and digitalization. You can, for example, you can decide to scan all your documents in your organization. That's, you have digitized them. Okay, digitalization means that you have put in place digital capabilities around them. You can sort them out. You can, they are not just scanned and they are there. You can sort them out. There's self-service provisioning for them. We've applied new capabilities like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Okay, Chinedu, I don't know the question you want me to repeat. So, okay, Muji Solar was mentioning I think that's about benefits and value. You can buy many cars, but you can't really say you're getting value from them because you don't drive some of them even in 2 years. Well, but there are two types of benefits. There's financial benefits and non-financial benefits. Some people just get emotional benefits from acquisition. Okay, right. Okay. Okay, I am not too convinced with your explanation on value and benefit. I will appreciate further explanation, possibly in terms of Naira and Kobo. Okay, so let's look at it. In Nigeria, for example, we are very familiar with. There are many banks, and I know that one of the most profitable banks in Nigeria probably uses the cheapest core banking application that I am aware of. They are not using FlexCube or Finacle, using something cheaper than those other ones. Okay, so the question is that who is getting value? Everybody is getting benefits. They're able to serve their customers. Okay, but the question is, what is value? Who is more profitable as a result of what they are using? Okay, that is another way to look at it. So when we talk about value, when your best benefit cost analysis or cost benefit analysis, when one looks better than the other, the one that looks better is the value. If I'm able to spend 1 Naira, so you said I should spend in Naira terms and Kobo terms or dollar and cent terms. If I'm able to spend 1 Naira to get 100 Naira, and you spend 1 Naira to get 10 Naira, I have more value, but both of us have benefits, right? Folabi, do you want to say something? Yeah, you seem to not be convinced, but do you want to say something? I've omitted you. Maybe I don't understand your question.
No, I think I get it right now. So obviously, it's in terms of the value is in terms of maybe Naira and Kobo, dollar and cents. Because my initial thoughts were like, it's me that did the investment that will know whether I have obtained value from that investment and not somebody else looking at me. But from your recent explanation and then a reference to that particular bank, that is using one of the cheapest core banking applications. And at the same time, of course, the bank is known. And then at the same time, they are like one of the most profitable banks in the country, at least in terms of their balance sheets. So I think that's clear.
Okay. So you have two projects. It's like, for example, in Africa, there have been some concerns about, okay, you do a project in Ghana for $1 million. You do the same project in Nigeria. It costs you $3 million. And the question is, yeah, both of them are deliver benefits. If it's a road project, or a bridge project, or an airport, they are going to function the way you want them to function. But you have gotten benefits, but have you gotten value? Is that the best use of your $1 million or your $3 million? Because you're supposed to be able to get 3 times what you have gotten. But it still benefits, the roads are still there, people can still move, you can show something for it, but have you really gotten value? So value is about ensuring that the cost and the benefits are related. The cost is not too much compared to the benefit that you have gotten. And then it's not only about money. There are financial benefits and there are non-financial benefits. It's not everything that is in monetary terms, but you need to be able to understand the benefits, even if it's and quantify them, even if they are non-financial, right? The qualitative analysis of the benefits is also very important. The reason is because whatever had costs without adding value is a waste. And the job of governance is to minimize that waste as much as possible, to ensure that waste is eliminated to the barest minimum. Okay, so you can get benefits, especially in the public sector where they have a budget and they just buy things. Private sector thinking is different because they are more interested in profitability. So it's not just about what you are willing to spend. They don't measure their value by how much they have spent on something. They measure the value by what they have gotten out of what they have spent. So it is more about returns on investment. Everything is about returns on investment. You have a value mindset, which is about, am I getting adequate returns on investment? So somebody said, Alex said, effective benefits drives value. That's true. So when you are able to, you are effective and efficient, not just effective. Effectiveness is that you have benefits, you've gotten the result. But how much resources have you used to get that benefit is what determines value. So rather I would say efficient use of resources. How much have I spent to get that value? Like this course I'm doing, you could have paid $1,000 for it or 100,000 naira for it. Now, if you get the same thing, whether you pay $1,000 or 100,000 naira, you've gotten benefits, you pass your exam. But have you gotten value? Should you pay more than what you are paying right now to get exactly the same thing? That will be the difference. So that's the difference between benefits. So you can do this and you get the benefits, you pass your exam, but how much have I paid? Or you take me to a restaurant that, I have to pay, you get into that restaurant and they say, okay, you don't want to ask for how much they are going to charge. You just place your order. At the end of the day, they brought you a bill, and the bill is actually equivalent to your monthly salary. But you are hungry when you went into this restaurant and you ate and you are happy. You got the benefits. Your tummy is now full. You are no more famished. You are happy. You're eating well. But when you got the bill, you probably started sweating because it's equivalent of your monthly salary. Because you didn't ask or you didn't have an idea of how much it was going to cost you. You got some benefits, but did you get value? Because you are going to work for 30 days to be able to afford another meal. So that is the difference between benefit and value. And it's always important that we don't get carried away by benefits. We focus on value. At what cost? This benefit, what will it cost me? And that is what organizations need to ask. What will it cost us to pursue these benefits? And is it worth it? Okay? And we do that mentally, even in our personal lives, but sometimes in organizations where our budgets, they have the resources, sometimes we don't think about that element. Okay, so the business case helps us to be able to focus on value. We're able to make the case for the business for every decision that we make. Okay. So no more questions, comments. So I will move on to the next slide. Okay. So over the years, best practice frameworks have been developed and promoted to assist in understanding, designing, and implementing enterprise governance of information technology. It's very important that we have a framework. Framework helps us to be able to have a way of thinking, to have a guidance for, pushing an objective. So it gives us a framework, a guidance. Framework is really about guidance. We have guidance for how we want to go about what we are trying to achieve. So over the years, there are many best practice frameworks that have been developed to help us understand enterprise governance of IT, to design it, and to implement it. So understanding, designing, and implementation. So what we are doing this morning is to take us through that step. How do we understand? What do we need to understand about enterprise governance of IT? How do we design it? And how do we implement it? Because if our understanding is faulty, our design will be faulty, and then our implementation will be faulty. I've had, in my professional experience, I've had people ask me for proposal for governance of enterprise IT. And when I send the proposal, the person said, this is not governance of enterprise IT. Well, clearly I knew that the person's understanding of what governance of enterprise IT was all about was different. The person wanted IT procedures, standard operating procedures for IT. So that is not IT governance. That's not what it is about. So understanding, if you lack understanding, you are going to be faulty in your design, and that will also affect your implementation. And if you wrongly implement, your benefit realization objectives, risk optimization objectives, and resource optimization objectives will also be suboptimal. You won't optimize them, they'll be suboptimal. So COBIT 2019 views on and integrates more than 25 years of development in this field. Okay, like I mentioned to you, in 2009-10, I had my COBIT 4.1 certificate. 2012, I had my COBIT 5 certificate. Now we're in 2020. So it has been building on and improving. You know that the weakness of the previous editions is the strength of the new one. Just like your phones, if you have iPhone 7, you know that the strength of iPhone 7 is the weakness of iPhone 6. Or if you have Samsung Note 10, the strength of Note 10 is the weakness of Note 9. So there's an improvement. COBIT 2019 has built on the strength of the previous editions over the last 25 years. It started with the IT audit community, where they had a checklist and said, okay, these are the things you should put in place to ensure the health of the IT system. So IT audit community started it, but it has developed into a broader and more comprehensive IT governance and management framework. Okay, and COBIT continues to establish itself as a generally accepted framework for IT governance. So it's the most established framework for IT governance, the most respected framework for IT governance all over the world, and it is the most authoritative as well. Okay, so that is what COBIT is about. So who are the intended audience? So there are two types of stakeholders identified by COBIT. You have the internal stakeholders and then the external stakeholders. Who are the internal stakeholders? COBIT covers the enterprise end-to-end, so you can expect that everybody within the organization will have a part to play or a role to play when it comes to COBIT. So the internal stakeholders include the boards. They are the primary internal stakeholder when it comes to governance. Corporate governance is the responsibility of the board. I won't assume that we all understand what board means. The board of directors are those who are representing the owners of that organization. Okay, so every established organization should have a board. The board represents the interests of the owners of the organization. okay, they are responsible for providing direction and control for the organization. They determine the direction the organization should go and the kind of controls that should be put in place. Okay, Sharif Usman says, I think economists understand the theory of benefits and values a lot. They usually argue that musicians don't add value to the economy, but they add entertainment benefit, but not economic value. Well, interesting perspective, but we know that is not true anymore. Nollywood is adding so much to the GDP of the country. Entertainers are now, they are one of the most productive set of people in the creative economy. So the economy has changed, maybe in the industrial age now, but in this creative economy, entertainers are doing very well in terms of contributing to the GDP of countries. Okay, how does COBIT talk to CGIT? Somebody's asking that question. How does COBIT talk to CGIT? So certified in the governance of enterprise IT is a body of knowledge beyond COBIT. So COBIT is a toolkit for implementing, for designing, and for understanding enterprise governance of IT. Enterprise governance of IT certification, is broader in terms of ensuring that you understand the benefit realization requirements. So what are the tools for benefit realization, risk optimization, resource optimization? And so the way I like to put it is that CGIT is a body of knowledge around governance of IT, and COBIT is a toolkit for applying that body of knowledge. So that's the relationship. So they are very related. After this class, if you begin to prepare for CGIT, you find it very familiar. Some of the concepts there will not be very strange to you again. Michael Afolabi says, in a financial services organization, are HR, legal, insurance, physical security executives considered business managers? Yes, they are considered business managers. So those who are financial services organizations, those who are not part of IT are considered business managers. So that makes everybody involved. Okay, but there are some people who are part of the business, but they have specific roles or other roles that they play, like the executive management. The ESCO is a set of people within the organization. They take directives from the board, and then they provide instructions down the line. So you have business managers who are head of units, who are non-IT managers. Those who are not inside IT department, those are the business managers. They are the end users or business users, as we may call them. So you have the IT managers, those are the leaders in IT function, in IT department. You have the assurance providers. So this may include those in internal control or internal audit, especially internal audit, those are the assurance providers. So your internal auditors are basically your assurance providers. You have the risk management, who is also a department responsible for internal controls within the organization. So you have these categories of people: the boss, the executive management, business managers, IT managers, assurance providers, risk management. So COBIT was written for these people. So as a board, you need to say, okay, what is COBIT saying to me? As executive management, what is COBIT saying to me? As a business manager, what is my role? IT manager, what is my role? Assurance providers, what is my role in corporate governance of IT? Risk management, what is my role in corporate governance of IT? So everybody essentially has a role to play in ensuring that there's proper governance of information and technology. Everybody within the organization. So you see that if you look at this, you fall in one of these categories. Business managers, if you're a senior person, IT managers, assurance providers, if you're in internal audit, risk management, if you are part of the enterprise risk management department or function within the organization, executive management, if you're an ED, for example, executive director within the organization, board members, they are not full-time staff. They probably meet 4 times a year, but they play a role in corporate governance. So that's actually their main role, ensuring that corporate governance functions are effective within the organization. Okay, so let's look at each of these internal stakeholders. The board provides insights on how to get value from the use of I&T. and explains relevant board responsibilities. So you see some boards, I know of at least most banks in my community or in my region here in Nigeria. They have IT governing board, IT governance board committees that are responsible for IT governance. You know, the most profitable, most efficient banks in Nigeria, they have that, you know, board committee responsible for I&T. We have executive management, provides guidance on how to organize and monitor performance of I&T across the enterprise. So executive management is responsible for the overall performance of the enterprise, and that includes performance of information and technology across the enterprise. We have the business managers, you know, they may be from operations, from HR, from legal, from other departments. They help to understand how to obtain I&T solution enterprise required and how best to exploit new technology for new strategic opportunities. So business managers are trying to use technology to be able to achieve their strategic objectives. So whether you are in HR, you want an HR information system to help you, with your the HR strategy of the organization, for example. Of course, you have the IT managers who provide guidance on how best to build and structure the IT department, manage performance of IT, run an efficient and effective IT operation, control IT costs, align IT strategy to business priorities. So you have IT managers. For example, you have CIO, and you have those who are reporting to the CIO, so head of department of IT, for example. But you also have some divisional reporting lines, or reporting to him, or some other units, somebody in charge of application, somebody in charge of architecture, somebody in charge of security, somebody in charge of quality assurance. So these are the IT managers, the direct reports to the CIO, including the CIO. And then you have the assurance providers who help to manage dependency on external service providers, get assurance over IT, and ensure the existence of an effective and efficient system of internal controls. The job of assurance is to ensure that the controls are in place and the controls are effective. They are doing what they ought to do. And the risk management helps to ensure the identification and management of all IT-related risks. You can see that we didn't say IT risk. We said IT-related risk. So IT-related risk. So when we talk about IT-related risk, that means we are looking at business risk that are IT-related. So IT-related risk does not mean IT risk. We are looking at all risk to the business that may come as a result of the use of information and technology. So IT-related risk is about the entire enterprise risk, but emanating from the use of information and technology. So for the external stakeholders, there are three categories of external stakeholders that COBIT addresses. You have the regulators, okay? So COBIT helps you to be able to relate well with your regulators and to address regulatory requirements. You have business partners, these are people you have alliances with or strategic partnership with, and you have IT vendors, as external stakeholders. So these are the three categories of external stakeholders that we have. So the regulators helps to ensure the enterprise is compliant with applicable rules and regulations and has the right governance system in place to manage and sustain compliance. Now, practically, what does this mean? It means that an organization can actually use COBIT as for a unified compliance architecture. Okay, in Nigeria, for example, you have so many regulatory requirements for banks and all of that. All of them can actually be consolidated under COBIT as a unified compliance regulatory framework to ensure that you are able to identify all your compliance requirements and address them through governance of enterprise information and related technologies. Okay, because some of these are IT-focused requirements. The business partners, COBIT helps to ensure that the business partner operations are secure, reliable, and compliant with applicable rules and regulations. So if you're a bank, for example, and you have business partners like MasterCard or Visa Card or InterSwitch or NIBS and all of that. So what kind of requirements do you need to put in place to ensure that your relationship with them is secure, reliable, and compliant with applicable rules and regulations. And of course, you have IT vendors. We want to be sure that the operations of the IT vendors are secure, reliable, and compliant with applicable rules and regulations. Okay, so these are some of the, we have two types of internal and external stakeholders. External stakeholders are the regulators, the business partners, the IT vendors. The internal stakeholders, we have the business, the board, the executive management, business management, IT management, assurance providers, and risk management. So those are the stakeholders and the target audience for COBIT. So let's look at what COBIT is and what COBIT is not. COBIT is a framework for the governance and management of enterprise information and technology. It is aimed at the whole enterprise, okay? So the entire enterprise, if you look at the internal stakeholders, you can see that everybody is covered within the organization, because everybody within the organization make use of information and technology. And so COBIT is aimed at the whole enterprise. COBIT makes a clear distinction between governance and management. That is why you can see that when we talk about the target audience, we talk about the board. The board of directors are responsible for governance. You know, they are not into the day-to-day operations of the organization. What they do is to provide direction and decision-making through prioritization. And you have management, the executive management take up these directives from the board of directors, and they implement these directives within the organization and report back to governing body, who judge their performance and ensure that the performance is in line with the objectives that have been set for the corporation of the organization by the board. Okay, COBIT defines the components to build and sustain a governance system. COBIT defines the components to build and sustain a governance system. So when we talk about COBIT, we are looking at governance system, corporate governance system. When we talk about a system consists of many components. Your car, for example, is a system. Your car consists of several components. The engine of your car is a system, consists of several components. Your laptop is a system. There are so many components around it. Okay, your body is a system. It has subsystems. It has digestive system, respiratory system, excretion system, and all others. So there are so many systems, even within your body as a system. So the same way, governance system consists of many components. In fact, there are 1,202 activities that you can find in COBIT 2019. We're just talking about activities under the practices and the processes. Not to talk about the other components, relating to the organizational structure, competencies and behavior, culture and ethics, services and infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So we get to that and we understand them better. When we, by tomorrow, is look at some of the components of a governance system. So it defines those components. In other words, what are the components that must be in place for you to have a governance system in place that is able to sustain the organization or help the organization to achieve its goals. COBIT defines the design factors that should be considered by the enterprise to build a best fit governance system. So there are design factors. Very powerful introduction to COBIT 2019. In COBIT 5, there were no mention of design factors. But in COBIT 2019, we have a set of 11 design factors that we'll be looking at, that should be considered by the enterprise to build a best fit governance system. So when we say best fit, what is most useful for us? What will give us value, not just benefits? Because COBIT is not meant to be adopted. COBIT is meant to be adapted. Okay, so the adaptation is in designing something that is best fit. You have to tailor it to the needs and conditions of the organization. So there are design factors. So when we talk about a design, you need to have criteria for design. It's like when you want to, maybe you want to go to tailor for a suit, and then there are certain parts of your body that will be measured. You want to look at your arm's length. You want to decide the length of your chest, for example, the length of your trouser. So there are so many things, dimensions that will be measured before the tailor even begins to work. Okay, because without those measurements, the tailor cannot design something that will be fit for your purpose, that will be best fit for you. So it won't be fitted on you if they don't have the right dimension. So what are the factors? What does the tailor need to know? What is the circumference of your neck, for example, or the diameter of your neck, for example? Are you medium, large, extra large? Is it 16 and a half, 15 and a half? All of those. What is your waist size? Is it 32? Is it 34? Is it 36? Okay, so these are some of the design factors that needs to be considered. So we look at it for governance system. What are the design factors? There are 11 of them, and we are going to get into them in more detail by Thursday. COBIT addresses governance issues. Where is that noise coming from? So largely, please mute your system. Okay. Okay. So COBIT addresses governance issues by grouping relevant governance components into governance and management objectives. So like we said, there's a distinction between governance and management. And COBIT addresses governance issues by grouping relevant governance components into governance and management objectives that can be managed to the required capability levels. So there are capability levels defined in governance and management objectives. For each of the components, capability levels are defined. So for example, processes are sets of components under every governance and management objective. That means that if you have 40 governance and management objectives, we have 40 sets of processes. And under each of these processes, we have practices. The practices are broken down into activities. And these activities are assigned capability levels, okay? So the capability levels of the activities determines the capability of the processes that are under consideration. So these are very prescriptive in COBIT. So someone says to go slower. Okay. All right. Did you miss anything you want me to, Mr. Beda? What would you like me to repeat?
That's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine now, sir.
Okay. Fine. All right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So thank you. So let's go on. Is everybody fine? So you can just click on the yes, and then I know that you are fine. All right, thank you. So governance versus management. For those of us with technical background, we sometimes don't know the difference between governance and management, but there's a difference. One of the things that the COBIT will help you with is to become a management person. You're able to actually become more business savvy, not just a technical person. Some of you have IT background, but it is not wise anymore to separate business from IT or separate IT from business. Business people must become IT savvy, and IT people must improve on their business acumen. So COBIT is your shortcut actually to be able to combine your technical expertise with your business exposure. Okay, it helps you to be able to translate technology into business language. Okay, technology requirements into business language. So when you use COBIT, you see that for those of you who have downloaded your material, there's no, you are able to use, you will not see technical jargons in the material. Any business person can pick it up and understand what it's talking about. So you are actually becoming a business professional, not just an IT or a technical professional. Okay, so the COBIT framework makes a clear distinction between governance and management. These two disciplines encompasses different activities, require different organizational structures, and serve different purposes. Okay, in COBIT 5, one of the principles is separating governance from management. That has been corrected in COBIT 2019. We are not trying to separate governance from management. We are trying to make a distinction between the two. You can't separate them, but you can distinguish between them. So it looks like semantics, but it's very important for clarity and understanding. So in COBIT 2019, the emphasis is on distinguishing between the activities of the two functions. So you have governance, you have management, they are different, and they require different structures, organizational structures, and they don't serve the same purpose. They serve different purposes. So it's important that we know the difference, because COBIT is about corporate governance, and governance is different from management. So I don't know, before we talk about it, anybody wants to tell us their understanding about the differences between governance and management? Anyone who wants to explain their understanding about the differences between governance and management? You can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and say something about your understanding between governance and management.
Yeah, I want to make a suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, governance is the. Can I go on?
Please go ahead.
Can I go on, please?
Yes, you can
Yeah.
go on. Go on.
The governance, yeah, the governance are the ones that are the ones to steer the organization, just like the driver of the organization, like the driver of a car. They are the ones to say this is where the organization is going. And so they are the board members, the executive management. But the management aspect is the doing part of the work, you understand? And in some cases, the reason why COBIT is saying we are distinguishing or separating is because there could be some times where even the governance, have some management functions that they also have to perform, some doing aspects. So management is about doing some things, while governance is about steering, it's about directing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So governance is about, you are showing where to go. This is where we want to go. Management is about getting us there. And sometimes you may wear the two caps. You have organizations where people wear two caps. You need to know which cap you are wearing at a particular point in time. For example, by law, Central Bank of Nigeria, the chairman of the board is the central bank governor, and is also the head of the management team, the committee of governors. But while he needs to understand when he's governing and when he's managing, because there are two different functions. But in most organizations, that there's a separation. The chairman of the organization, for example, the banks, for example, the chairman of the bank board of directors is not the executive, is not the managing director, who is the chief executive officer. So the head of the management team is usually the chief executive officer, and the head of the governing team, the chairman. Okay, and that is how most organizations are structured, in line with corporate governance best practices. So there's a distinction, between governance and management in this sense, and that is a very good description. Okay, so the governance body charts the course, and the management body steers the ship. So one is charting the course, one is steering the ship, telling us where to go and getting us there. Because in life, what makes us successful is not efforts. It's efforts in the right direction. So if you don't make your effort in the right direction, you will not get value. Okay? There will be so much activity, but no productivity. And the stakeholders will not be satisfied. So governance is about ensuring that you have the right direction. That's why they are called board of directors, because their job is to provide direction. I like what Mr. Jubilah says here. Governance provide vision and management enforce that vision, that vision or direction. So governance is about knowing where to go, and management is about getting there. Ensuring that we are doing the right things, and management is about ensuring that we do things right. Okay, so please have this in mind when we are talking about COBIT. It's not just what IT people are doing, it's about what they value that the organization, and the custodians of value creation for the organization is the governing body. The governing body's job is to ensure value delivery, that the organization is getting value from every resources that they invest in, ensuring that the organization is not exposed to risk that is beyond their capacity, and that benefit is delivered. Financial and non-financial benefits are delivered to the stakeholders. So governance ensures that stakeholders' needs, conditions, and options are evaluated to determine balanced, agreed on enterprise objectives. So from this definition, you can see that the governing body determines the enterprise objectives. That is why you shouldn't write an IT strategy without understanding the business strategy. You shouldn't have IT goals that don't speak to enterprise goals. Governance ensures that direction is set through prioritization and decision making. Prioritization is very important in life because you can't do everything. You have limited resources of time, of energy, of money. So you can't do everything at all times. So you need to set priority. Prioritization means that you're able to choose the best line of action that will give you the best returns on investment, that will deliver the best value to you. So prioritization, if you know Pareto's rule, the 20/80 principle, is one way to further make a case for prioritization. It says that 20% of your effort will result in 80% of your results. Just the same way for this lesson, for this training, 20% of what you hear or participate in will actually result in 80% of your chances of passing the exams. So what is the 20% principles that you need to know? For example, if you know about governance and management, you know the difference, you know what benefit realization is, risk optimization is, resource optimization is. If you understand them deeply, you are probably going to be able to answer most of the questions in your test, okay? Because these are underlying principles that have been expounded in COBIT, okay? So you know what governing body does, what management body does, and then you are able to, do well in the exam because you are approaching the exam with a clear understanding, not just cramming information, but you have clear understanding, you have clarity, you have comprehension. So direction is set through prioritization and decision making. Performance and compliance are monitored against agreed on direction and objectives. So if you are elected or assigned a board role, this is actually what your role is. This is like your job function. You ensure that you analyze the needs of the stakeholders, their conditions, their options, and you determine balanced, agreed on enterprise objectives. What are the objectives of the organization? What exactly are we doing? Where are we going? We set direction through prioritization and decision making. So that's why every time the board meets, the conclusion of their meeting is a board resolution. So we talk about board resolution, decision making. They resolve issues and they decide on where to go. So once the board has decided, management has no choice. Anything they do contrary to board resolution becomes a punishable offense. It becomes an offense, right? So performance is also very important. It's not enough to say this is where we are going. What gets measured gets done. If you don't measure it, you cannot improve it. If you don't measure it, you cannot get value from it. Okay, you don't get benefit from something you cannot measure. So compliance are monitored against agreed on direction and objectives, because benefit realization is a deliberate effort. You have to be deliberate about realizing benefit. You have to be intentional about it. So you have to measure for benefits. Okay? And the only way to measure is by monitoring. What you don't monitor, you cannot measure. And what you don't measure, you cannot manage. So that is the third role of governing body. In most enterprises, overall governance is the responsibility of board of directors under the leadership of the chairperson. Specific governance responsibility may be delegated to special organizational structures at an appropriate level, especially in complex enterprises. So you have audit committee of the board, that is a delegation of responsibility by the board to a subcommittee. You can have risk committee of the board. You can have the IT strategy committee of the board. So these are some of the specializations that you can have under the board structure at an appropriate level. So this is how governance functions. Okay, and we have management. Management plans. The job of management is to come up with plans, strategic plans. They implement the plan, they operate the plan, and then monitor the activities so that they can report back to the governing body to ensure that whatever has been done is in alignment with the direction that has been set by the governance body in order to achieve the enterprise objectives. So the enterprise objectives are set by the governing body through directives. So the directives becomes plans. So strategic plans are created out of these directives, and then you build based on those plans or implement, and then you run or operate what you have implemented, and then you also provide assurance back to the governing body to ensure that what you are doing is in line with the directions that they have set. So in most enterprises, management is the responsibility of the executive management under the leadership of the CEO. Governance is the responsibility of governing body under the leadership of a chairperson. So we know what COBIT is. It's important for us also to understand what COBIT is not, so that we are very clear about the limitations of COBIT. COBIT is not a full description of the whole IT environment of an enterprise. Okay, so when we talk about IT as a function, as a department of an enterprise, it's not a full description of the whole IT environment of an enterprise. It is not a framework to organize business processes. It is not a technical framework to manage all technology. Okay, so that emerging technologies, for example, if you have artificial intelligence, you have machine learning, you have robotics, there are so many other technologies. It is not a silver bullet to manage all technology. It does not make or prescribe any IT-related decisions. Sometimes people will say, what does COBIT say about that? That is not the purpose of COBIT. It's not to decide for you. It doesn't make decisions for you. It doesn't prescribe any decision, any IT-related decisions. All it does is to provide you guidance. Provide you guidance, direction, some good practices, some set of wisdom, collection of wisdom that you can apply to your circumstance. It doesn't take over your reasoning, it doesn't take over your analysis, it doesn't just provide you with two sets to do what you ought to do. Okay, so that is what COBIT is about and what it is not about. All right, so let's look at COBIT formats and product architecture. I'm going to share with you a laminate that summarizes COBIT as a product. Okay, I'll do that maybe after this session. So this is what we can call the product architecture. So there are products in COBIT. When we say products, we refer to the publications. So that's what we mean by products. Those are the publications that we have in COBIT. And the publications are increasing, but the core publications, there are 4 of them. We have the framework, introduction and methodology, which when we started, I asked all of you to download your copies from ISACA. If you're a member of ISACA, you can download the 4. If you are not a member, you can download the first 2. COBIT, framework, introduction and methodology. COBIT, framework, governance and management objectives. So these are the core publications of COBIT. So you have COBIT 5 as an input into COBIT 2019. You have standards, frameworks, and regulations. So COBIT is like an umbrella framework and standard. So you have the umbrella framework, which integrates a lot of standards and frameworks. So in COBIT, you can find ISO 27001, you can find ISO 22301, you can find ITIL, you can find ISO 20000, you can find King 4 corporate governance from South Africa, and so on. So you have NIST there, you can have ISO 9001 for quality, ISO 31000 for risk. All of them are somewhere inside COBIT. So it aligns with those standard frameworks and regulations, and we're going to talk more about the specific ones that it aligns with. So you have standards, frameworks, and regulations, and then you have community contribution. So community contribution, talking about, so community contribution means that you have ISACA members and the professional community contributing to creating COBIT 2019. So COBIT 2019 is the COBIT core. We're going to talk about all those tiny, tiny boxes. They represent the 40 governance and management objectives. The first 5 are the governance objectives, and then the next 5 are the, let me change the screen. Okay, so the first 5 are the governance objectives, and then the next 35 objectives are management objectives. And these are expressed in the COBIT core publication, governance and management objectives. Okay, so you have the explanation of all the components of the COBIT core model for governance and management objectives in this publication. So you also have what we call the design guide, designing an information and technology governance solution. So this design guide makes your need for consultants less necessary. You are able to actually design your own governance system without necessarily external help. Okay, so the design factors are 11 of them. We are going to talk more about them in the course of this session by Wednesday, Thursday. Tomorrow, actually, we introduce you to design guide, and then we master it by Friday, where we're going to have some practical and some experience, because we are going to design something for the organization. So we have about 11 design factors that have been, that are generic to COBIT 2019. So we'll talk more about them. Enterprise strategy is a design factor, enterprise goal, the size of an enterprise, the role of IT, the sourcing model of IT, compliance requirements of your organization. We talk about your sourcing model. We talk about your adoption model for IT, the implementation methods, you use Agile, you use Waterfall. Those are some of the design factors. And then we have focus area. So COBIT 2019 tries to tailor to different focus areas that you can use it for, that may require governance system. So you have SMEs, for example. The core publication is for large enterprises, for organizations that have more than 250 full-time employees. That is what COBIT considered to be large enterprise. SMEs are those who are between 50 and 250 full-time employees. So you have focus areas for SMEs, you have focus areas for security, for risk, for DevOps, and there's no head to which focus area you can actually have. So there's a continuous development of products around COBIT around these focus areas. So you have focus areas, you have the design factors in the design guide. And then the tailoring of governance system for information and technology helps us to be able to prioritize governance and management objectives. Why do we need to tailor? The tailoring using the design factors will help us to be able to know which governance and management objectives are actually priorities for the organization. So you have 40 objectives. If you have 40 objectives and you are pursuing 40 objectives, you are likely not going to achieve any of them. So how do you prioritize from that 40 objectives? Which ones should be the priority of the organization? And then the tailoring also helps to be able to focus, to determine the specific guidance from focus areas. So based on your enterprise size, for example, you can use COBIT for SME. to focus on that. We also have target capability and performance management guidance. So based on the components of your governance and management objectives, if, for example, your compliance requirement is high, you know that you need to choose objectives at a higher capability level. You need to be able to say, okay, this, when you are designing your governance system, your capability level should be high, because for compliance-related requirements, because your organization, your enterprise functions in a high level, high compliance requirement level. For example, I'm in consulting. My compliance requirements is not as much as a bank in Nigeria, for example. They have dozens of compliance requirements that they need to comply with, okay? Or telecoms, for example, okay? So you have all of that, and then COBIT design guide helps you to be able to make the right design that is best fit for your organization. So the core products are the framework, introduction, and methodology. You have the framework, governance, and objectives, the two publications that are relevant for the foundation training and exams. And then you have the design guide, design and information technology governance solution, which is the newest, let me say it correctly, which is the newest addition to COBIT. Because in COBIT 5, there was nothing like design guide. There's no guidance around design. COBIT 2019 implementation guide has been enhanced, but we had it in COBIT 5. We had the implementation guide using COBIT 5, implementing and optimizing and information and technology. So this has been enhanced, but the design guide is quite new, and I encourage those who are coming from COBIT 5 to pay attention to that design guide. It's like something precious missing from COBIT 5 that has not been found or introduced in COBIT 2019. So what are the major differences between COBIT 5 and COBIT 2019? This is for the benefits of those who need to relearn COBIT because they already knew about COBIT 5. Now they need to learn some things about COBIT 2019, asking what's the difference, is it cosmetic, and all of that. But there are major differences that we would look into now. COBIT guidance uses the terms governance of enterprise information and technology, GEIT, enterprise governance of information and technology, EGIT, governance of IT, and IT governance interchangeably. So when I say IT governance, enterprise governance of IT, governance of enterprise IT, these are used interchangeably. But you know what that means. It's all about corporate governance, taking responsibility for the responsible use of IT to ensure that risk are optimized and value is delivered. So COBIT 2019 improves on prior versions of COBIT in the following areas. COBIT 2019 is more flexible and open. We'll talk about that as we go. So more flexible in the sense that there are design guides that are there, and it's applicable to all manners of situations, compliance requirements, pain points of the organization, the enterprise goals, the strategic objectives, and all of that. So the risk profile of the organizations are also put into consideration. And it's open in the sense that it can be applied to different focus areas. It is applicable to different focus areas and all of that. So currency and relevance, COBIT 2019 is very current. In COBIT 5, for example, we didn't have anything around data management. So this is incorporated in COBIT 2019. It is very current, relevant to emerging issues in technology, and it has some prescriptive application. Okay, it is not prescriptive, but it has prescriptive application. So when we say prescriptive application, because each of the activities are assigned a capability level, for example, so you know exactly what is being done or which capability level you are at based on certain activities that you are involved in and what you need to do to move to the next level of capability. So in that sense, it has some prescriptive application. and you can actually compare implementation from one organization to the other based on this prescriptive application. And then there's performance management of IT, which is related to what I just described, capability and maturity model integration, CMMI, is reflected in the COBIT performance model. Okay, so these are some of the new additions to COBIT 2019, which were not in COBIT 5. So what are the major differences between COBIT 5 and 2019? Let's look at some of the differences. Modified COBIT principles concepts include both governance systems and governance frameworks. In COBIT 5, we had 5 generic COBIT principles, 5 COBIT principles. But in COBIT 2019, we have 2 sets of principles. 3 governance system principles, 6 governance system principles, and 3 governance framework principles, making 9 principles in all. And we're going to understand the difference between the 2. We have governance components in COBIT 2019. They were called enablers in COBIT 5, but they are called components in COBIT 2019. Now, the reason is this. In COBIT 5, the emphasis was on processes, and people just look at other components as enablers. So policies are enabling the processes and all of that. But in COBIT 2019, governance system is the emphasis. So we emphasize governance design as a system. So we talk about governance system, and systems have components, and processes are just one set of components within the system. You have other enablers in COBIT 5 now considered to be components of a governance system. So we have new focus areas over which specific governance practices can be directed. So you have focus areas like risk, like DevOps, which is part of the currency and the relevance that COBIT 2019 brings to the table. There's a new publication just released, and an exam also released for it, COBIT, being used for implementation of NIST cybersecurity framework. Okay, so we have the addition of design factors which are used to influence the design of an enterprise governance system. You have 40 governance and management objectives, which are related to each of the 40 updated processes in COBIT. So because we now have 40 objectives around governance and management, that means that we have 40 processes as against 37 processes in COBIT 5. We also have updated goals cascade that supports the prioritization of management objectives based on enterprise goals. So the goals cascade in COBIT 5, there were 17 goals for enterprise goals and 17 actually related goals. In COBIT 2019, we have 13 enterprise goals and 13 alignment goals. They are called alignment goals, no longer IT-related goals, because there was a confusion that when we say IT-related goals, we are talking about IT goals, but they are not IT goals, they are alignment goals. In other words, what the business wants IT to do, not just what IT has decided to do. So alignment goals is how the business measures IT. Okay, and we have updated performance management, which includes maturity models and capability models. We also have updated COBIT business case. COBIT 5, there's a generic business case template that's been updated in COBIT 2019. And then there are also new and updated publications around COBIT 2019, which we didn't have in COBIT 5. Yes, did you say new COBIT documentation with an associated exam has just been released? Yes, COBIT for NIST. So if you're into cybersecurity, you want to use COBIT. Like I said, you can use COBIT to actually do so many things. You can use it to implement service management, to security management, whatever your focus area is. But there's a publication for implementation of NIST cybersecurity framework. For those of you who are in North America, or if your country or your company has adopted NIST cybersecurity framework, you want to use COBIT to implement it. Okay, so there's a guidance, a publication which you can find on COBIT on ISACA website. So, okay, somebody asked me that question privately. Mr. Afalabi asked that question. Okay, so I hope you are satisfied with the answer. Okay, and that we move to the next one, COBIT and other standards. Okay, so that is that question was Stanley, and then we look at COBIT and other standards. So there are other standards that COBIT has adopted from, and one of the guiding principles applied throughout the development of COBIT was to ensure that we maintain the position of COBIT as an umbrella framework. So it's an umbrella framework, which means that all other frameworks and standards that are I&T related, can find a space under. It means that COBIT continues to align with a number of relevant standards, frameworks, or regulations. So COBIT does not contradict any guidance in the related standards. So you don't see COBIT contradicting ITIL or ISO 20000 or ISO 27001 or any of the standards that are referenced in COBIT 2019. What it does is to provide equivalent statements, and it provides references to specific content within the related standards or guidance. So it doesn't copy the contents of these related standards, it provides equivalent statements to them. Okay, so you can see, we'll see how that works as we go on. So these are some of the standards that are specifically referenced. If your company or your organization has adopted any of these, you can actually use COBIT to address them the more, or to bring them to a level of governance relevance. So you have Center for Internet Security, CIS Critical Security Controls for Effective Cyber Defense, cloud standards like AWS, and then you have CMMI Cyber Maturity Platform. You have CMMI Data Management Maturity Model, CMMI Development version 2.0, COSO for Enterprise Risk Management Framework, which is a leading ERM framework. You have the European Committee for Standardization, e-competence framework. That has to do with skills framework for IT professionals. You have the iTrust Common Security Framework, Information Security Forum, Standard of Good Practice for Information Security. And then you have the ISO standards, of course, the 20000 series, the 2700 series, the 38500 series for IT governance. For those in change management, the popular ProSci change management standard or framework is also part of this framework that has been adopted. You have the Agile framework for lean enterprises, skill framework for information age, SOFIA, which is now in its version 8, I think, 7 or 8. The new one has just been released this year. Then you have the Open Group IT for IT reference architecture, the Open Group standard, TOGAF for enterprise architecture. You have the TB taxonomy. You have the NIST standards, all right? The one for improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity, and the special publications are there for cybersecurity maturity and all of those. So we have all of these, including the PMBOK for project management. So these are some of the standards that COBIT aligns with. And if you're in cybersecurity, if you're in service management, if you're into enterprise architecture, if you're into risk management, if you're into cloud security or cloud service provisioning, you can see that there's even HR or people development and management, competency management, all of that is embedded somewhere inside COBIT, and we're going to see more of it as we go on. So if you're a consultant, you have a toolkit to give you a broad view of how the enterprise works and the role that you can play to make things aligned. Okay, so talking about the training and certification, just for emphasis, I mentioned COBIT Bridge course, which is just to look at the differences between COBIT 5 and 2019. 20 questions, but you have to pass 16 out of 20 to awarded the certificate. Okay, so the assessment is also available for those who just want to take that. Okay, because it's shorter and it doesn't take more time to finish. Okay, the other one is foundation certificate, and the certificates are equivalent. When you pass the bridge course, you actually get a certificate for foundation course to say that you have passed, because you already had foundation exam and you now have the 2019 bridge course. So that means you have two certificates in one. And then you have the design and implementation certificate. Very few people in the world have done it. You may be one of the first sets to do it. COBIT design implementation course, and then you have the assessment as well. Okay. So let's look at some group discussions as our time is moving. Okay, how is EGIT implemented as your organization? So I would like you to now speak while I catch my breath as well. So how is EGIT implemented as your organization today? Anybody who wants to share with us? Anyone? I don't want to do all the talking, so we want to share with us how EGIT is implemented at your organization. Mr. Folabi, do you want to share with us? I'll start calling your names, especially for those that are familiar with the organization. Hello, anybody? We are doing exam practice. You may find this question in your exams. Maybe that will motivate you to respond. So who wants to share with me how EGIT is implemented at your organization today? You can say not implemented. You can say partially implemented, largely implemented, or fully implemented.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Uche. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Payemi, for the coverage you've done so far. So on the implementation of EGIT in my organization, yes, we have a corporate governance practice or a corporate governance framework that is being adopted enterprise-wide. And that corporate governance gives back to some other responsibilities than the board committees and all that. For instance, we have an IT audit, IT committee of the board. We equally have an audit committee of the board. So down the line, yes, the fact that there's an IT committee of the board that tries to give direction, like you tried to allude in your presentation, makes it very, very recognizable that we practice enterprise IT governance. But yes, in the scale you have mentioned now, most cases, including my organization, they try to prove that, or they try to show they have adopted this practice, but in the actual sense of the practice, they don't really get it right. And that somehow creates some, created some gaps within the environment. But all the same, yes, we've tried to do some capacity building around IT governance or enterprise governance of IT, at least to sensitize a certain level of the workforce on the need to understand this concept and begin to see how we can really operationalize it in terms of other IT-related engagements and get it, support the bank in his quest to realize his strategic objectives. So in a nutshell, that's what is playing out in my own environment. So I don't know whether that answers to your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a follow-up question. Which one is receiving more attention in the organization? When we say, because governance, sometimes you see that organizations, they focus more on benefits realization. Some organizations, their focus is on risk optimization when it comes to governance. Some is about resource optimization. They want to ensure that they're getting value from what they're spending. Which one is receiving more attention in the organization of the three?
Well, in terms of the one that's receiving more attention in terms of value or benefit realization.
In terms of activities. In terms of activities, the practices in the organization, which one, what is driving the governance practices in the organization? Which of these outcomes?
Yeah, so in terms of activities, of course, I wouldn't want to mention my organization for reasons of protection. Yeah. But the fact is that, like you said, most cases, this mindset or this declaration that we are doing this is just for the purpose of declaration. But when you get down very well, you discover that the practices are not right. Like you try to explain issue on benefit and value, right? So you discover that they see this as an avenue to just do this because for doing so, and that gives more credit to benefit as against the value. You try to emphasize on the course of your presentation. Yeah.
Okay. Any other opinion about this? Because where you have governance management practices that are in place, sometimes the outcome. You must not forget the reason why you are doing what you are doing. It's important that you don't forget why where you are going. You can be on a journey, you're enjoying the journey, but never forget your destination. So the destination is about value creation. It's not just about the activities. It's about ensuring that we realize value for the organization. It's not just about implementing COBIT. It's about creating value for the organization. So sometimes when we talk about governance, you see organizations, some are want to get benefits. So trying to get benefits, they forget that there's also some risk management activities that need to be in place, because you can get value and that value can be eroded by certain things. So for example, if you are doing internet banking, so you say you want to do internet banking, you want to do mobile banking, and you don't focus on the risk exposure. So you may just be exposing your organization to hackers activity because you have not focused on the security capabilities that are required for you to be able to do such business model, where people are able to do self-service. Okay, so and then resource optimization, you can be spending money you don't have, good money, being spent on bad money. So you have good money, chasing bad money. What do I mean by that? The solution is wrong. So, but you keep on investing in a solution that is not going to deliver value to you. So that would be a wrong approach. So the key issue is about the balance, ensuring that you balance between benefits, risk, and resource optimization. So all the three needs to receive attention. Okay, you need to be able to give attention to all the three outcomes of governance objectives. Okay, anybody who wants to say something at this point, want to also share maybe from your organizational perspective, you don't need to mention the name of the organization, but even though we can check you on LinkedIn to find out which organization we are talking about. But so who wants to say something about your organization?
I just want to, can I talk, please? Please
go ahead.
Okay. I want to say that the organization I just retired from, to a large extent, we had started in the right direction, even though the initiative started from IT, not from the business, at least for them to appreciate the importance of, having the governance of enterprise information and technology. So, and I think to a large extent they understood that it was necessary and that it was important so that they could get value, from the business. And a lot had actually been done, even to the extent that you could say a kind of risk assessment had been done. The pain points had been, at that time using COBIT-5, the pain points had been gathered, the risk assessments had been done, the enterprise strategy was in place, the enterprise goals were in place, the IT steering committee, at least the governance board, was in place. The IT governance board was also in place, even though most of those boards, the IT understood more than the business in most of those boards. So it's important that some improvements be made so that it's balanced, so that the business is on the driving seat and not IT. So that's just the contribution I want to make, that a lot had been done actually. So many areas had been covered. Even the gaps because assessment had been done to know the gaps, on the 37 processes and know which ones were relevant and all that. But still, a lot still has to be done so that the business, will be more focused on value than just leaving it to IT to drive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is to say that organizations have different levels of implementation, and as a professional, whether you're a consultant or a staff, it is important that you understand the level of implementation in your organization. There's a saying I like to repeat often, that good practices are as good as those who practice them. So you can have COBIT, but it is how you use it that makes the difference between the value that you get and the value that you don't get. So how you use it, what you do with it. It's not just about the book, it's about how the book is understood, how the book is applied. That makes the difference within the organization. And that difference is in value creation. So when you are able to create value, that is actually when you are making a difference. So in summary, we have looked at enterprise governance of I&T. We looked at COBIT as an I&T framework. We've looked at the intended audience for COBIT 2019 framework, both from the internal perspective and the external perspective. We looked at the format and product architecture. There are 4 core publications: introduction and methodology, governance and management objectives, design guide, implementation and optimization guide. We look at the major differences between COBIT-5 and 2019. We don't have enablers anymore. We have governance system components. We look at COBIT and other standards, and we look at the training and certification path for COBIT. Okay, so I know that some of the organizations are familiar with ITIL. Some of you are using ISO 27001 or ISO 20000. Some of you are using NIST. You see the limitations and the relationship with COBIT. So some, for example, ITIL is focused on service management, service delivery, and service support, whereas COBIT is at the governance level, it covers everything. ITIL may not cover enterprise architecture. You find enterprise architecture in COBIT, and so on and so forth. You also find competencies framework, competencies, skills, and behavior components as part of the governance system in COBIT. Okay, so COBIT is very holistic in its approach, as we are going to see in the principles as we go on. So let's look at these questions, and I want you to participate in the questions by answering either in the chat, especially in the chat. Maybe I'll try to see how I can incorporate pooling into the question so that we can see how many people actually guess this right. Okay, so which of the following best describes COBIT? What is the answer? I want you to participate. Somebody say, I think. Okay, you should not just think, you should know. Yeah. All right. There seems to be a consensus. Now, let me share this with you. You find questions that are very straightforward like this and very simple. Okay, somebody said A and B. You can't have A and B, Madam Wasilat. You can only have A or B. Okay? COBIT is not. If you look at where we say what COBIT is not, B is actually saying COBIT is not a full description of the whole IT environment of an enterprise. It covers the enterprise end to end, but doesn't fully describe the entire IT environment, because you can have other IT issues. You know, for example, some may have some public cloud they are talking about. You know, it's not really, or they have outsourced some things, or they have extended enterprise. For example, IT environment of organization it now includes working from home. So if I'm working from my house, or I'm providing IT support from my house, or my call center is now my house, you know, the environment has changed a bit. So it is not a full description. So what you'll find in questions and answers like this is that there will only be 3 options for COBIT 2019 Foundation, pardon me. In COBIT 2019 design and implementation, there are 4 options to choose from. So you have the question, and then you have the options. So there will always be 3 options for the foundation exam, and then you can choose only one answer. Only one answer is correct. So there is no negative marking. Make sure you choose at least one answer for each question, and then there's no negative marking. But you can always eliminate. Okay, these are, if you go through your materials, you know that these are just picked directly from the book, and they can be that simple. Sometimes you doubt yourself that how can this be this simple? It's that simple, like this question. All the questions will be that simple, but sometimes because our mindsets are complex, we expect a more complex answer, and that's why some people miss some questions. So the correct answer here is A. Okay, thank you. So we go to principles, and that's where we are going to end today. In the next 15 minutes, we look at the principles, and that will be the end of our session for this morning until 7 o'clock when we meet again. Okay, so there are 9 principles in all. We look at the governance system principles, the first set of principles, and then we look at the governance framework principles. So the governance system principles are when you are designing a governance system for your organization. When you are designing a governance system for your organization, what are the principles that you need to focus on? So principles shape your practices, they guide your implementation, they help you to know whether you're on the right path or not, whether you're doing things right or you are not doing them right. Like Peter Drucker would say, it is important to do the right things than to do things right. So how do you know that you're doing the right things? You can be implementing COBIT, but are you doing it the right way? How do you ensure that you're actually doing the right things? So the system principles help you to be able to know that. So COBIT 2019 was developed based on the 2 sets of principles. The principles that describe the core requirements of a governance system or for enterprise information and technology. So we are talking about when you design a governance system for your organization, what are the principles that should guide that design? So, and then the second set of principles for a governance framework that can be used to build a governance system for the enterprise. Okay, so you have the principles for a governance system for the enterprise information and technology, and you have a governance framework principle. So there are 6 governance system principles. These are principles that you need to put in place for your governance system. So the governance system is the set of components you have put in place to govern and manage your enterprise information and technology. And there are 6 principles that should be in place for this to happen. So you have the first set of principles. When you have a collection of principles like this, like 10 commandments, the most important is usually the first one. because without the first one, you can't do the rest, or the rest will be meaningless. So the primary principle is always the one that comes first, which is provide stakeholder value. Like I've been saying, value, 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 value. It's all about value. Doesn't matter what you do, if you implement everything, you put all the practices, and you cannot demonstrate value. You are not just to add value, you must be seen to be adding value. So when you implement COBIT, when you implement any framework, any standard, don't forget that it's not just about the activities, it's about the value that those activities create for the organization. And you must be able to trace it, you must be able to relate all activities to value that is being created. So the value may be around risk optimization, the value may be around benefit realization, the value may be around resource optimization. So those are the three ways of demonstrating value. If you cannot show value from benefit perspective, from risk perspective, from resource perspective, then value is not realized. Okay, so it's important that you understand that everything you do, don't just have value, be able to demonstrate that you're adding value. So as an implementer of COBIT, or as a practitioner in the organization, even professional, whatever you're doing, if you're an IT, information security person, you can make this your framework. What is the benefit realization? How is the organization benefiting from my work? How am I helping the organization to optimize risk? How am I helping the organization to optimize resources? Okay, so that is how you demonstrate value, even in your personal, professional life, generally. So provide stakeholder value is the first, and then you have holistic approach, which means that you look at all the necessary components. You are not just focused on practices or activities or processes. You are looking at all the necessary components, which are called enablers in COBIT 5. So we also look at dynamic governance system. Dynamics means that it is flexible. You are able to move with the changes. Now that we are talking about COVID-19 impact on businesses, a lot of governance system needs to change, but there are a lot of changes that are impacting organization. Okay, so your governance system needs to be able to look at how do you measure performance of people working from home, for example. How do we ensure that security of infrastructure and applications of our staff working from home, and so on and so forth. So there will be a change in governance system because of the changes that are happening in the environment. So we also talk about governance being distinct from management. We have talked more about that. We've seen the differences between governance and management objectives. Governance is tailored to enterprise needs. Okay, the tailoring, the customization, the adaptation of the COBIT frameworks and guidance to the actual environment is also considered. And then end-to-end governance system, it covers the enterprise end-to-end. If you look at the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders, you can see that everybody is covered. So these are the governance system principles that you have to put in place. How do you know that you are doing it right? So when you implement COBIT in your organization, or you adapt COBIT in your organization, you need to ask these questions. So if I come and say, okay, you say you have implemented COBIT, I will ask you, can you demonstrate value? What value have been realized from your implementation? Okay, in terms of benefit realization, how do you measure that? What are the financial and non-financial benefits? What are the risks optimization, or can I see your risk register? How is your risk profile doing? Have your risk capacity improved because of this? Okay, resource optimization, are you more efficient, more effective, more responsible in the use of your resources? So these are some of the questions that need to be answered beyond saying that we have implemented COBIT. Holistic approach, did you cover all the components, or it's just all about processes that you've done? Did you just focus on processes, or you focus also on culture, on structure, on infrastructure? And then competencies and behavior. Did you focus on that as well? What are the work products? What are the information items that you have put in place? Dynamic governance system, how often do you respond to the dynamic nature of your industry, or is everything static? Okay. Governance distinct from management. Governance practices and management practices clear? Is there clarity between the two, or it is blurred? And then tailored to enterprise needs. How often do you consider design factors and modify the factors depending on the nature or the current pain points? So in other words, is your implementation current, and relevant to the needs of your enterprise? And end-to-end governance system, is it just something that was done within IT function, IT department, or the entire organization participated in that design? So this is a way of providing governance system assurance as well. You can use this to determine whether you have done the right things or not. Okay, so these are the 6 principles for governance and system principles. So each enterprise needs a governance system to satisfy stakeholders' needs and to generate value from the use of I&T. Value reflects a balance among benefits, risks, and resources. An enterprise's need an actionable strategy and governance system to realize this value. Holistic approach. A governance system for enterprise I&T is built from a number of components that can be of different types and that work together in a holistic way. So we talked about that. And then dynamic governance system means that each time one or more of design factors are changed, for example, there's a change in strategy or technology, the impact of these changes on the governance system must be considered. A dynamic view of governance system will lead towards a viable and future-proof governance system. So when you are very conscious about the changes and you respond to the changes, you react to the changes, you have a future-proof governance system. You don't have a governance system that is not able to take you to where you are going, that is becoming irrelevant and not useful to the organization. So you also have governance distinct from management. I've talked about that. Then you have tailored to enterprise needs. This has to do with having the right parameters in place to customize and prioritize the governance system components. And then end-to-end governance system, that you are not just focusing on the IT function or the IT department, but on all information and technology systems within the organization that are put in place to achieve the goals of the organization. It doesn't matter where the location of that capability is within the enterprise. So you go beyond IT and you go through all the stakeholders and see where the capabilities are, and then you ensure that governance is applied, in whichever location the information and technology resources of the organization reside. Then you have the governance framework principles. These are the principles that are used to guide the creation of frameworks like COBIT. COBIT is a governance framework. So what are the principles that govern the creation of COBIT as a framework? So we talk about the framework is used to create governance system, but the framework itself, is guided by certain principles. So you have 3 basic principles that guides governance framework like COBIT. So you have other governance framework like COSO, ERM framework, for corporate governance. So what are the governance framework principles that even COBIT is guided by? So it is based on conceptual model. It is open and flexible and aligned to major standards. So the 3 principles identify the underlying principles for a governance framework that are used to build a governance system. So COBIT is used to build a governance system. So I don't want you to confuse the 2 sets of principles. So the framework is used to build a system. The governance framework is used to build a governance system. So an example of a governance framework is COBIT. COBIT is used to build a governance system. So the governance system has 6 sets of principles, and the governance framework that is used to build the governance system also has 3 sets of principles. One is it is based on conceptual model. In other words, it identifies the key components. So that's why we have governance system having 7 components. That's the conceptual model. The key components and relationship among the components to maximize consistency and allow for automation. So you see, for example, if I take one objective, the objective has 7 components. If I take the next objective, it has 7 components. Each objective has 7 components, and those components allow for consistency and also automation, because there's a pattern that can be followed. It is open and flexible. It allows the addition of new content and the ability to address new issues in the most flexible way, while maintaining integrity and consistency. So if we talk about new areas like focus areas, for example, you can create new focus areas, flexible around that. So that's why COBIT can talk about focus areas like DevOps, like cloud computing, like cybersecurity, depending on what you need to do, without losing the integrity and consistency of the framework. And the third one is that it is aligned to major standards. The governance framework should align to relevant major related standards, frameworks, and regulations. Okay, so in summary, we have the 6 governance system principles: provide stakeholder value. That is the emphasis of COBIT. It's all about value, 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 value for the stakeholders. Stakeholders are those who are receiving benefits, those who are providing risk optimization or exposed to the risk, who are risk owners or risk managers, and then the resource, those who are responsible for effective, efficient, and responsible use of resources. And then we have a holistic approach. We look at all the components that needs to be in the governance system, which is dynamic, with ensuring that the framework is current and responds to changes in the environment, internal and external environment. There's a difference between governance and management because the functions are different, the practices are different, and the objectives are different. Tailored to enterprise needs, we have design factors that help us to do the tailoring, and end-to-end governance system, meaning that it's not just about IT function or IT department, it is about the entire enterprise. And we have governance framework principles based on conceptual model that allows for consistency and integrity of the framework. It is open and flexible, and then it is aligned to major standards. So let's look at the sample questions as we round off this morning session. What is the primary difference between governance system principles and governance framework principles? Can you please answer the question? Okay, so I can see that you're all ready for the exams. Okay, so C is the answer. For those of you who still have doubts, a governance system, question 2, a governance system should be customized to the enterprise needs using a set of design factors as parameters to customize and prioritize the governance system components. This is an example of which governance system principle. So this quote, which governance system principle is he talking about? Okay, A, exactly. Yeah, A, you're doing very well. A, good. So tailor to enterprise needs. Tailor to enterprise needs. Okay, you can see that when you see anything about customization, you see design factors. You are talking about tailoring. Okay, you're talking about tailoring to enterprise needs. The other, open and flexible, is a governance framework principle. It's not one of the governance system principles. It's not one of the 6. So A is one of the 6. Open and flexible is one of the 3 governance framework principles. Go cascade is irrelevant, to this question. It's part of COBIT, but it is not relevant to the question at hand. It's not a principle. It's not one of the principles. So that is the end of today's, of this morning's practice. In the participant guide that we sent to you, there is a company there called NEMCO, and I want you to, take time to read it, read the case study. If you don't have it, please send an email to Dotun. We will send it to you. Participant guide where you have NEMCO. NEMCO is a fictitious company that we're going to be using to internalize and practicalize all the things that we have learned. So our time is up. It's 10:30, and I thank you very much for coming. If you have any question, drop it with me. Send me a mail so that I can address it as we come back again in the evening. Okay, so please don't miss the evening class. And I wish you a very pleasant and productive day. Thank you, everyone, and see you later in the day.
Thank you too much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, bye for now.